breakthrough life coach, and today I got a great letter from a woman named Cassie in Milwaukee. And Cassie has asked me a pretty loaded question. And that question is, Lisa, why do I always end up in power struggles with other people? No matter who it is, I feel like others are trying to take advantage of me. A little about my background. My mom is an unrecovered ACOA, and my dad was a passive-aggressive alcoholic. He and my mom fought all the time. Today, I notice I argue with almost everyone I know. My husband and now even my kids say I am so negative. Your thoughts, please. Thank you, and I love you, Cassie from Milwaukee. So, Cassie, this is a really great question, and I really do. I applaud you, and I bow to the love and the light in you because you're being self-reflective, right? You're looking at the self. We are a society and a world full of people that are not observing their thoughts. So if you're not observing your thoughts, what are you doing, Cassie? You are reacting to your thoughts. That is just the long and the short of it, you know? So if you're not observing the way you think, then you're reacting to the way you think. And if you're not careful, you may not even realize that the way you think is the result of what I call childhood programming, because we were all brainwashed as children. We just were. Every child today is brainwashed. You know, if you think about your religion, you didn't pick your religion. You know, if you were born a Mormon, then you're a Mormon because your parents were Mormon. You know, if you were born somewhere in India, you'd be, you know, maybe a Hindu. So we have to just kind of like embrace the idea that we're all products of our environment, and no matter, well, depending on who our parents were, what their religions were, what their ideas about life were, those ideas, those outside external ideas are very much going to have impacted the way we think and feel today. So you were raised by an unrecovered ACOA who more than likely suffered from codependency, because when you're an ACOA and your parents are alcoholics, your parents don't see you, right? They can't see you because their brain is fogged over due to alcoholism. They have an addiction. And when you have an addiction, the addiction becomes numero uno. You need to fuel that addiction. So when you're an unrecovered ACOA, you grew up in a home where you felt invisible. And very sadly, what ends up happening is you end up feeling like there's a pane of glass between you and the people that you love. So imagine a little child who has an alcoholic for a mommy, and this child wants to feel seen by their mother and father, and I mean psychologically seen by mom and dad, and they can't because mom is obsessed with, or doesn't even realize it, her brain is fogged, and she's an alcoholic, so she wants to drink. And when you drink, you're an alcoholic, there are a lot of things that you have to end up trying to cover up, right? You cover up the fact that you're drinking. You cover up where you were. You cover up how you spend your money, blah, blah, blah. And all of these different things filter into and affect the way you're able to mother a child. So your mother, Cassie, comes from that type of a background, which means that your mother probably never felt seen. Your mother never felt real. Your mother never felt like who she was important. So now she marries a passive-aggressive alcoholic, her husband, your dad, and that's probably because she's an ACOA. So she attracted into her life experience a husband who probably mirrors a lot of the same types of characteristics that one of or both of, because you didn't tell me if both your grandparents were alcoholics. Both my grandparents, my mother's mother and father, are both alcoholics. So my mom's an unrecovered ACOA. So I immediately understand what it must have been like for you to grow up with a mom who's an unrecovered ACOA and a dad who's passive aggressive and alcoholic. So you say that your mom and dad, you observe them fight all the time. So remember, the same-sex parent, they say, is the most influential parent to the child. So you were very much influenced by mom. So you didn't tell me if your husband's passive-aggressive or whether or not he's an alcoholic. But based on your history, mom being the ACOA unrecovered with a history of alcoholism on her side, right? So let's say this is mom and she's got alcoholism on her side. And then your dad is an alcoholic. He's got, obviously, now, who knows if his parents were alcoholics, but we definitely have this thing going on that has been passed down to generations. So you are watching your mom, who doesn't feel seen, more than likely, who is probably has a lot of repressed anger from being an adult child of an alcoholic, very wounded, suffering from an attachment trauma because when she was growing up, who was there for her? So all of these feelings are within the being that is your mother. And here she is, a grown up. She's having children and her body is grown up, but that doesn't mean her heart and her mind is grown up. And now she's attracted your father into her life, who is also an alcoholic. And she's working out all this unresolved childhood stuff with your dad. So if your dad is passive aggressive, I'm sorry, but I think passive aggressiveness is a form of gaslighting. I think sarcasm is a form of gaslighting. So even though your mom's an unrecovered ACOA, I can almost guarantee you, I was married to a passive aggressive person and I was angry all the damn time because he'd say one thing and he would do another. Words would come out of his mouth and he didn't mean anything he said. So I couldn't rely on anything. And then when I expected him to do what he said he was going to do and he didn't do it, I was infuriated. I was so angry. And then I got mocked because I got angry. So it was like he was dousing gasoline on me, lighting a match. And then when I was dancing all over the place, screaming from being burned, he would laugh at me like it was my fault that I'd gotten upset. So I really do, I empathize with what type of home you grew up in. But here you are, you're observing this, right? You're observing mom feel very frustrated and like she can't control her husband and like she can't get anywhere, right? Because when you're married to somebody who's passive aggressive, you can't get from point A to point B. And the happiest people are the people who are able to stay in some type of a flow. When you're dealing or when you're married to an alcoholic or a passive aggressive person or a narcissist, there is no flow. There is always this bumping up against a rock. Always. There's always a mess. There's always, you can't get through. We're meant to flow. We're energetic beings. Really, liken yourself to a river. You're supposed to be flowing downstream. Rivers don't flow upstream. Think about water. Think about water being like electricity and know that you are mostly water, as a matter of fact, our beings are mostly water. We are supposed to stay in some type of a flow. So you observed your mom unable to stay in the flow. Probably her own being was out of flow because of her childhood. And then she's married to a passive aggressive man. So there's a lot of this for your mom. You're witnessing that. So you're being downloaded with this type of a dynamic. So it sounds like you have taken on some of mom's powerlessness, and I want you to really search your own mind and try to figure out whether or not you are showing up in relationships trying to gain the power perhaps that your mother never had. Because as little girls, we watch our mothers, and if they feel powerless, we are downloaded to feel powerless. And now what'll happen is we go out into situations absolutely feeling unseen. And then you're the grandchild of an alcoholic, so you qualify as an ACOA too. So it's very possible that you're showing up feeling insecure. If your mother was not secure and she didn't have high self-esteem, more than likely she didn't do a very good job modeling high self-esteem for you as a young woman. So if you're fighting with everybody, then there's an esteem issue there. You don't feel seen, you don't feel respected, and now you're trying to control people into respecting you. And that's just not necessary. When you learn to have esteem for yourself and you revere yourself because you know that you're good enough, and that happens with a lot of introspection. We become fully self-actualized, but you cannot be fully self-actualized until you're able to observe the self. So it sounds like you are learning to do that. So I'm really, really happy about that. You're saying that your husband and now your children are even saying that you're negative. Very oftentimes, ACOAs and grandchildren of alcoholics and codependents in general, we focus on the things that we don't want, and we don't focus on the things that we do want. And as a defense mechanism, we focus on the things that are wrong because we think we have to fix what's wrong for us to be able to stay in the flow. But for anybody who is the unrecovered grandchild of an alcoholic or an ACOA or a codependent, you know that the minute you fix one problem, there's another problem right behind it. And it's not so much that we have problems as much as it is the way we are showing up in our life and what we are paying attention to. So many of us who are wounded from childhood and it's unresolved, we don't know how to see the good. We are not attached to things that we want to experience. We're attached to things that we don't want to experience. We don't know how to let go and have fun. We don't know how to appreciate the beauty that is around us. We are constantly hypervigilant, scanning the environment for the next booby trap because we have lived in a state of survival our entire life. So it sounds to me, dear one, that based on your childhood, you probably lived in a deep state of survival. And now, when you show up in relationships with other people, you might still be in that state of survival, even though you might be okay. You might not need to live in a state of survival. But what I would like you to do, and keep us posted, I would like you to really take a good inventory of your life and ask yourself, is there anything that I need to be afraid of? What kind of relationship do I have with my husband? What kind of relationship do I want to have with my husband? What other patterns do I see? What patterns do I see in myself? Do I recognize as being patterns from my childhood? What attitudes and behaviors have I taken on from mom that I don't really want to have? How can I start having more fun in my life? What things are actually working in my life? What you want to do is you need to teach the brain that you are not living in a state of survival. I'm getting itchy again. Always happens when I make a video. It's so bizarre. I digress. But anyway, what you want to do is you want to actually teach your brain to understand that you don't have to live in a state of survival because your brain doesn't know that. Your brain likes the familiar. So if you lived in a state of survival as a little girl and you've never confronted that, then you're probably living in a state of survival as an adult. So what I want you to do is really, really look at your life and help your brain understand that you do not have to live in a state of survival. Help your brain understand that it's okay that other people have their own opinions, that everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Help your brain understand that you don't have the right to control other people's opinions. That's very liberating. That's very freeing. How other people feel is none of your business. You are the creator of your own world. You are the creator of your own reality. I go as far as to say, you are the God of your life. God flows through you. Creator is living within you. And it's up to you to create the kind of life experience you want. For those of you who believe in God, believe in creator, believe in source, what kind of world would we be living in if source just paid attention to the things that he thought or she thought or it thought were wrong? Source only flows. Source sees good and wants to create. So even though there might be a smidgen of the world that doesn't have a lot of, let's say, grass over here, creator just kept creating grass someplace else, downstream, 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 downstream. So what I want you to do is I want you to understand that we've come here to create. We've come here to manifest. And when we're focused on things that we don't want, we're not creating. We're actually taking ourselves out of the stream of creation. We're taking ourselves out of the flow. So I want you to do, dear one, Miss Cassie from Milwaukee, is start focusing on the things you do want to experience. Start focusing on the things in your life that are working. And then ask yourself, all the questions that I just, rewind this video and write down the questions that I just asked you to ponder. And see if you can figure out, ways in which you can pull yourself out of survival so that you won't feel like you're on high alert so much anymore. Because there really is no need to have a power struggle with anybody at all. People are entitled to feel what they want about you. And their opinion of you is none of your business. And you don't have to convince anybody that you are good enough because you are. Every single person on the face of the earth is a seed of God, a seed of Creator. And the potential to live an amazing life is in every single one of us. The issue that we struggle with today is that there are some people that are below the veil and lots of people that are below the veil and not that many people above the veil. So we have a world full of people that are unconscious to the childhood programming and they are reacting to the thoughts and beliefs and the conditioning that has been programmed into them when they were children. And you, dear one, are on the awakened path. I know that because of the questions that you're asking. So see if you can cognitively rise out of this survival mode. Get out of your amygdala, get out of your hippocampus, and see what happens. Start focusing on what's going on in your life that's actually good, and see if you can make any connections to your childhood and get back to us. Let us know how you do. Namaste, everybody. I bow to the love and the light in you. Till next time. Bye.